And there are still 2 more weeks of voting in this election season. I won't say until election day because voting is already underway. So, as we start the show, like I do many times, every show I remind you about voting. There are 37 states where early voting has already started. If you're in one of those states, I encourage you to vote early. And but whatever you have to do to vote, vote safely, but definitely vote, right? Exercise your right to vote. It is a right. And right now, speaking of rights, voting rights are on the table. They are in danger. And so when I says vote like your rights depend on it, I really mean that. That's not that's not hyperbole. That's not a fear tactic. It is the truth. So as I start today's show, Chalk Talk, I want to remind you to vote. And that's it. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show, but there's so much sports to get to. There always is. I will also tell you, if you hear me kind of looking around, see me looking around a bit and just checking, in my area, there was a shooting, an officer involved shooting recently. So there's a lot of helicopters flying around. So I'm just kind of keeping my eyes open because you just never know. Like right down the street from me, it's been on my ring. And thank you to all of my friends who like, oh wait, that's Kim Street, who have texted me or called me and said, hey, just FYI, there's some stuff happening in your area. So thank you for that. But that is, if my attention seems a little bit diverted from time to time, I'm just, being aware because the helicopters continue to circle. I saw one report that said there was a SWAT situation, but a SWAT situation would mean that somebody's inside, and the helicopters mean they're looking for somebody outside. So, and because the helicopters keep flying over where I live, it makes me think that they're looking for someone possibly in my area. So that's all. Just, that's what's happening at the KD Company at the worldwide headquarters of Chalk Talk on Tuesday, October the 20th. But let's get to a little bit of sports. I'm going to let you hear today from Jeff Luhnow, who did an interview, his first since he was suspended from Major League Baseball earlier. Was that earlier this year? I can't even keep up. I guess it was the beginning of the year that he was suspended from baseball for a year or a season, however you want to look at it. I'll let you hear from him. But speaking of Astros, I want to talk a little bit about how this Astros team, how the season ended, right? The season ended over the weekend. Game 7, they lost to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays after coming back from an 0-3 deficit. And so while you never hear me talk about moral victories, this Astros team had to be proud of what they accomplished. And it was interesting in the final interview, and I'm going to play that in an additional show I'm going to do this week. I'm going to let you hear from Dusty Baker and a couple of the players, George Springer, who it could very well be the last time we hear from him as a Houston Astros, Carlos Correa, and then also the final interview of the season with Dusty Baker and James Click on yesterday. So I'm going to do a separate Astro show. I will post that and show that to you guys. I thought it deserved its own show. But this is a season. I mean, think about what this Astros team had to overcome, right? They lose their ace, Justin Verlander. You're thinking, okay, we get through the season. He's about to come back and be healthy. Yeah, no, he's not about to come back. He's about to have Tommy John surgery, which will put him out, could put him out until 2022, but definitely done for the remainder of this season. They lost their closer, Roberto Osuna. They had lost their rookie of the year, Jordan Alvarez. There were on and off throughout the season other players who were injured. When their pitching staff was kind of decimated, they called up and used a lot of rookies, even in postseason. Those rookies showed up. I thought Dusty did a really good job of managing. And so it was quite an accomplishment, right? It was quite an accomplishment and a lot to build on. Of course, the ultimate goal is always to win, right? To win a World Series. But this Houston Astros team has appeared in the last 4 ALCS games, right? They won it, of course, in 2017. 17, yes. They were in the World Series in 2019, got to game seven of the ALCS in 2020. And it, and oh, by the way, this was this season of COVID. So spring training was cut short. They came back and worked out in Houston. It split between Minute Maid, their home park in Minute Maid Park, and University of Houston. When they finally start playing, they had to monitor COVID, take tests every day. Once they got into postseason, it was like they were in a, pretty much in a bubble away from their family. I mean, it was a lot to endure, not just for the Astros, but for everyone involved in baseball. But my point is, that is what character and leadership looks like, in my opinion, when you look at how this Astros team fared, whether you like them or not. If you're from another part of the country, you're probably one of the many people who just hates the Astros. And I'm not going to spend today's show trying to tell you why you shouldn't do that. But what I am going to say is I'm just proud of the work they did, and really proud of Dusty Baker, and look forward to seeing what will happen in the future. However, we talk about the future with the Houston Astros. I mentioned that it could be the last Okay. All right. I hope that's better. Thank you guys for letting me know. Get rid of that. Okay. What in the world is happening? I'm getting all of these. I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay. I'm getting all these updates because I just restarted the show. At any rate, thank you, Kim, for letting me know. Give me a thumbs up if it's unfrozen. If not, I will. And I'm going to have to call my internet provider because it has been, I made some changes really upgrading it. And it seems like I'm having problems with the signal. So at any rate, I'm going to have to bring Angel into the show. She has wanted to go outside, but because we have police shooting in my area and helicopters flying over. Come here, Angel. We're not going outside until a little bit later, so she'll be okay. She'll be a part of Chalk Talk. At any rate, that's the Astros story. Okay, it is it is going to be what is that? It is going to be something I'm going to talk about further. I'm going to do a whole Astro kind of wrap up show later this week, as I mentioned. So, but I did want to. I couldn't have today's show without talking about about what this young Astros team accomplished this year. And see something. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. So that's kind of our little stint on the Astros. Come here, Angel. We're not going outside, dear. It's too much happening. I'm just sorry. You're going to have to wait. We are not going outside. What in the world? So the Houston Texans. Okay, here we go. Let me just grab her 1 second. Come here. Come here. Okay. I am back. Angel's a little excited. It's a lot of stuff going on over here, but she's going to join us today because she didn't get her pre-show walk, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Let's take that away. I am having all sorts of technical challenges on this end, so if you guys will just bear with me. Okay, there we go. I can try to remove. What in the world? They decided to do a tutorial right in the middle of the show and I couldn't get it off the screen. Okay, I hope that I am back now. And the camera looks a little blurry, but hopefully it will clear up. Okay, so there we have it. So that is kind of where we are with the Astros. The Houston Texans, on the other hand, were involved in quite a game on Sunday at Tennessee as they faced off with the 4-0 Titans, who are now 5-0 since the Texans did lose that game. They started off a little slow, and they started off slow, pushed their way, had a great chance of winning that game, and it came down to a couple of things, right? If you watch the game, you may be one of the many people who say the game was lost when interim coach Romeo Crennel decided to go for two on the Texans' last touchdown. Or you may say it was one of the it was a kick that was missed earlier in the game by Fairbairn, or you could say it was the fact that the defense could not stop the final drive. Any of those things. It was a culmination. And so, hindsight is everything. You can't really like the aggression of going forward on 4th and 1 and then be really angry about going for 2 points. But it was an exciting game to watch. The Texans, there was a lot of excitement. The defense gives you a lot of reason for concern. They had takeaway. They got the team had his first interception of the season. So congratulations to the defense on that. I guess that's a bright spot. But Yeah, they didn't. They couldn't do anything with Derrick Henry. And granted, Derrick Henry is a beast. Like that is the the running back from the Tennessee Titans, who is not just running all over the Texans. He's been running over pretty much anybody he faces, and so he is clearly something to be reckoned with. But this defense is going to have to find a way, to slow some people down, to make some stops when it's really necessary. And so the Texans are, you know, getting ready for this week's game when they will play host to the Green Bay Packers at NRG Stadium. So we will see what happens this weekend. It will not get much easier because Aaron Rodgers will be in town with the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, right? So this Texans team has its work cut out for them. Deshaun Watson continues to look like the Deshaun Watson we expected him to look like. Will Fuller stretch the field? I mean, they there were some moments. David Johnson had a couple good moments. Offensively, this team fared, better, obviously, than it has. But again, there's still there is still, I'm sorry, a lot to really think about, with this team. I wanted to try to give you the. So we could talk about, no, let's not do that. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So the Texans scored 36 points, which is the most in a game since week 5 of 2019 when they scored 53 against Atlanta. And it was the most on the road since week 4 of 2018 against Indianapolis. Will Fuller had a big day. He finished with 6 receptions, 123 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. David Johnson had a team high of 57 yards. He caught 1 pass. He scored a 1-yard run in the third quarter. He had as long as his 3rd rushing touchdown of the season. So there were some bright spots. Brandon Cooks finished with 9 receptions for 68 yards. He also had a touchdown. Randall Cobb also had a touchdown. So there were some things about the game that you could say, you know what, it wasn't all bad. And indeed, it was not all bad, but they still have their work. Whoops, don't do that. Their work cut out for them. I have just, and so after the game, one of the things that Romeo Crennel was asked was, how much it was his decision to go for 2 on that 2-point conversion. How much of that was reflection in his confidence in Deshaun Watson and how well he was playing at the time. And so he said he had a lot to do with the offense. The second half, they came out and they're moving the ball. They got ahead in the game. They were making plays. And then when they were down, they were down there so close. He felt like he had a great opportunity to put the game away if they could have gotten that 2-point conversion. I'm really not real mad about that. Of course, a win is always, good morning, Sylvia. Say, hey, Aunt Sylvia, good morning. A win is always the goal. And so you go back to the drawing board, and the Titans improved to 5-0. So it was a division loss on the road, a game that you were right there in and had a real chance to win, but they will see them again. You got to regroup and come back and get ready for the Packers on Sunday. I want to talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets, right? Because although basketball season just ended, there's a lot that we don't know about this Houston Rockets team. We know that they are still in need of a head coach, unless they've hired one since I've been. It really look like they're close to hiring a head coach. They've talked to Jeff Van Gundy. There's been some rumblings that maybe John Lucas could be the guy. But they've been without a coach since the day after their season ended, when Mike D'Antoni said, "Thank you, but no thank you. I'm about deuces. I'm out." That's what Mike D'Antoni said. Thanks for everything, but I'm gonna go. And so they've been without a head coach. And then last week, Daryl Morey stepped down, which was really odd, right? It was really, really odd. It was odd that he would step down for a number of reasons. He just signed a new deal, and there was a lot of money on that deal. Uh, and so it just makes you kind of go, wow, what's really happening? There have been conversations about the owner, Tillman Fertitta's financial wherewithal, because his businesses have been really hard hit in COVID. And he is a businessman who operates a lot on the margins and also is not terribly liquid. So, COVID is hitting people all sorts of ways. I'm not saying he ran his businesses paycheck to paycheck, but I am saying that it is without the cash flow. If you just follow the reports, it's been a struggle, and it's understandable. I mean, his entire empire is built on the entertainment business, the hotels and casinos and restaurants, the things people aren't really doing. And so what does that mean for the Houston Rockets? The other question about the Houston Rockets is this: what does it mean for the Houston Rockets in terms of how they build moving forward? They don't, what will they do to improve the roster? They're kind of hamstrung, right? They don't have any draft picks. They're up against the cap. And so will they move one of their big guys, one of their superstars, one of their MVP players? If they do, obviously the thought is that guy would be a Russell Westbrook, if that were to even happen. I don't know. There's so many uncertainties, and we've not really heard anything. So we'll stay tuned, and I'll keep you posted on that as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty around the Houston sports scene. Although the Astros, you feel good about the way they ended the season. If you don't get, if your last game is a loss, you never feel good about that, right? Only the one team that doesn't end their season on a loss is really happy. So let's be clear. I'm not saying the Astros are somewhere jumping up and down, doing high fives. They have a lot to be proud of, but the goal is to end the season with the hardware, right? To win another championship. And they didn't do that, so they fell short. And now we have really no idea what this roster will look like in 2021. We don't know. The thought is that George Springer will not be back. The thought is that Michael Brantley probably won't be back. And so there's just a lot of questions about how this team will look. I will say this about James Click, who's the general manager. In his first year as general manager, came from the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, the team that is in the World Series, with the lowest payroll in baseball. And so you don't just get there in one season like that, but you build, especially pitching, and you build it obviously in your farm system. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot to talk about and a lot to get through. So speaking of baseball again, and Jeff and the Astros, I mentioned that Jeff Luhnow, who was the general manager for this Houston Astros team until the bottom fell out, right? They were slapped with a fine from Major League Baseball. He was suspended. He and AJ Hinch, the former manager, were suspended from baseball for a year. And then they were both fired by Jim Crane, the owner of the Houston Astros. Well, Jeff Luhnow appeared in his first interview. I'm going to let you hear some of that now. Let's see here. Let me let you hear.
Rumors of the Astros sign stealing in 2017, but I wasn't asked to follow up on it. There was no, they weren't asking me to do anything. It was sort of a heads up, and I didn't think we were doing anything, so I didn't pursue it. It isn't a story, it's the truth, Vanessa, and I've been consistent with the truth that I didn't know from the beginning. The very first interview I had with Major League Baseball all the way until today. And when you're telling the truth, it's pretty easy to be consistent because you're just recounting what happened. And if I go through all of my behavior, all of my actions, they're consistent with someone that tells the truth, and they're also consistent with someone that didn't know. I did a lot to try and prevent us from doing anything wrong. After the Red Sox and the Yankees were punished in 2017, I had a conversation with our manager, and I asked him if anybody in our dugout was using Fitbits or Apple Watches or anything that would be remotely considered against the rules. He told me that one of our coaches had been using an Apple Watch, but after the incident with the Red Sox had stopped wearing it because clearly we weren't supposed to be doing that. He did not tell me anything else about trash can banging or any impropriety. I followed up with two other people in the baseball operations area, one on the medical side and one of the people that works for me, and made sure that they knew the rules and made sure that we were following the rules. In the general managers meetings after the World Series, after we won, which was only a week after we had our parade, I argued for and voted for MLB to enforce the sign stealing rules by putting a monitor in the clubhouses the next year. And they did. In 2018, they did put a monitor in. They only put one monitor in the stadium that would bounce between the clubhouses, and that unfortunately left some opportunity for some wrongdoing to continue in 2018. I also had a meeting during spring training with our coaching staff, with Major League Baseball officials to talk about the new rules. And during the season in 2018, about 5 different times, either because I noticed it myself or because MLB called me and said, we think there might be a potential violation here, I followed up quickly, I followed up vigorously, I talked to the coaching staff, I talked to the video room staff, and I told them, we've been accused of a violation, let's make sure we're doing everything right. Before the playoffs, in both 18 and 19, I sent an email to MLB letting them know that we were going to follow the rules and that we were not going to do anything improper. And I followed that email up by sending it to people in the video room and the coaching staff and said, let's please follow the rules. Now, why would I do all that if I were somehow behind this, or even if I were aware of it? It doesn't make sense. I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware of it. It happened. It was bad. It shouldn't have happened. Our team broke the rules, and I'm sure there was some advantage gained from breaking the rules. But unfortunately, had I known about it, I would have stopped it. Nobody came to me and told me it was going on, and I just didn't know.
Some people.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there. That's enough for me for right now. So yeah, Jeff Lunau says, and Vanessa from Channel 2, KPRC Local 2 here in Houston did the interview. The next thing she said is, and I'll pop that up, some people say there's no way you could not have known. Yes, it's tough for me to believe too. It just is. No ownership of it. You knew absolutely nothing about it. It's really, really difficult to believe. And I know he's trying to get back to baseball, but he has been pretty defiant from day one. And, like when Vanessa, at the beginning of the interview, I may have clipped it a little bit, and she said, you stuck to the same story. And he said, it's not a story, Vanessa, it's the truth, that he never knew. Pretty interesting. Yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts about it, what you think. And I don't know. It's been really an interesting, really journey, if you will, this past year with the Houston Astros, following this. I want to move on from that. I'll let you hear a little bit more from him before we get out of here. But I also told you guys that, with it being October the 20th, we have 2 more weeks in this election season before the election voting is over. it is not 2 weeks until voting day because people are already voting, right? So that is the culmination of voting is on November the 3rd. Wherever you are, make sure that you vote. If you've already voted, that's awesome. Help somebody else vote. And I wanted to pull up something today because I promised you a little bit of um, a civics lesson. And the reason I'm doing that is because I listen to so many people talk. I see so much, not just even on social media, because that is not always just reality. It's some people's reality. But I see so much misinformation. I see so many lies. I see so much that's just not the truth. And so one of the things I've always encouraged people to do is to really vet where you get your information, right? Where are you getting your information? Who are you listening to? Okay. And I'm going to say this, there have been, I just, the journalist in me makes me always follow the money when things look strange to me. And so I do that a lot. But I'm going to encourage you, if you're on the fence about whether or not to vote, just hop on off, right? Vote. We have so many reasons that we need new leadership. It may not be the perfect leadership that you wanted, right? But just remember, you don't have to invite the people over for dinner. You don't have to let them be the godparents to your kids. But we need somebody in the White House. We need an administration, and we need cabinet members that will work for the people and not just for themselves. This COVID stuff is real, y'all. And for those of you who are still acting as though it is not, I don't understand that. I mean, I don't understand it, especially if you happen to be African American, because you are bound to know somebody who's been impacted by COVID, if they haven't lost their lives, who have at least been have suffered from it. And here's the thing: don't buy into this. We can get it, and it'll be fine because the president said so. You don't have access to what he had access to. We still don't know how he will really recover when he's off all the medication. They gave him experimental drugs that aren't even approved by the FDA. He got care that most of us can't even begin to afford. So don't get caught up being foolish when you can just wear a mask, right? You can remain socially distanced. Be careful who you move around with, right? Because you don't know how other people are moving. I'm not talking about being paranoid and not living your life. I'm just saying make wise choices and wash your hands. We can get to the other side and get through this. And here's the other thing. Don't let people who've never voted tell you how you should vote. I'm just going to leave it at that. Would you let somebody who's broke tell you how to make money? I probably wouldn't. Would you let somebody who can't cook at all try to teach you how to make recipes? I mean, it's just really easy, common sense stuff for me. But here's what I want people to know. It's so unfortunate that there's no civics in school anymore, right? There's just, so the things that we learned, it's like it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there's no teaching of it unless you're teaching it to your kids at home. Okay. So I just want to do this kind of real quickly. And this is not to be condescending, but it's just a reminder. So one of the things that we need to be clear about is that for things to happen, there has to be legislation. Okay. Yes, presidents can sign executive orders, but as we saw when the current president took office, how he undid a lot of the executive orders that President Obama put in place because he did not have the support of Congress. So really, legislation is most effective and has some permanency when bills become a law. So how does that happen? So the bill's drafted. Okay, so any member of Congress, either from the Senate or the House, who has an idea for law can draft a bill. Okay, then the bill's introduced once it's drafted. All right, the bill is introduced. in the House if it was brought by a representative, in the Senate if it's from a senator, all right? Then the bill goes to committee. So both parties, both houses of Congress, the Senate and the House, have committees that are composed of members who are, particularly interested in different topics like health or international affairs, okay? And then when a bill is in the hands of the committee, they talk about it. It's examined. They talk about the chances of whether or not it can pass. They may even have to hold hearings to understand the implications of the bill and to also get the views from the executive branch and other experts. And if the committee does not act on the bill is considered to be dead, right? Then there's a subcommittee review of the bill. Subcommittees are organized under the committees that they may have further specialization on a certain topic, okay? Then the next thing that happens is there's a committee markup of the bill. So that's, it's like a paper. They're making them changes and amendments before recommending that the bill comes to the floor. All this is happening, getting the bill ready to come to the floor, all right? If a committee votes not to report legislation to the full chamber, the bill dies. So the next thing that happens is once the bill reaches the floor, because it's gone through these other 5 steps, it reaches the floor, and now there's more debate. Members of the full chamber get to vote about approving amendments, and then it is either passed or defeated by the members voting. So let me stop there. Right now, there are more than 300 bills that this current Congress has passed. They've passed. But once the bill goes through the House of Representatives, it has to go to the Senate, right? So the House passes the bill. So for those who are saying that they're not doing any work, they passed all these bills. 80% of them are sitting on Mitch McConnell's, I guess, on his desk. I don't know what he's doing with them. But what he's not doing is he's not bringing them to the floor for a vote. So when the House passes a bill, it then is referred to the Senate. Other way around, if the Senate were to pass a bill, it would go to the House. And that's where it goes through the same, committees, and finally to the floor. The chamber has to approve the bill as received, right? The chamber can approve it, they can reject it, they can ignore it, or they can change it. Or they can and so what's really happening right now is they are ignoring it. That's step 7. If an agreement is reached, which if it doesn't come to the floor, there can be no agreement reached, the committee members prepare a report with recommendations for the final bill. And then both the House and the Senate must vote to approve that conference report. Then the bill goes to the president after both the House and Senate have approved a bill in the identical form. If the bill is sent to the president and the president approves legislation, it is signed and becomes law. If the president takes no action for 10 days while Congress is in session, the bill automatically becomes law. If the president opposes the bill, he can veto the bill. In addition, if no action is taken for 10 days and Congress has already adjourned, it's what's called a pocket veto. So if you heard a pocket veto, that's what that is. And then the final step, if the president vetoes a bill, Congress can attempt to override the veto if both the Senate and the House pass the bill by a 2/3 majority. So I go through all that to say this. President is super important. We see that. We see the just insane foolishness that's happening. But also the congressional seats matter. If the House passes bills and the Senate majority leader, which is Mitch McConnell, won't bring the bills to the floor, then no legislation can happen. So no amount of visiting by particular entertainers or rappers or groups moves that needle forward. I think what I would advise people to do, listen, anybody who wants to help, especially if you want to help Black people, I am all for it. But I would encourage you first to understand how government works. You guys, that is so key. Understand how government works. It's super important. And the other thing is, you need to vote. If you've never voted, please stop telling you speak for Black people, because I am a Black person and you do not speak for me. You've never voted. You don't understand the process. People have been out here doing this work for decades. Get with some people and say, listen, I'm not pleased with the state of affairs. I want to have more of a role. I care about my people. How can I help? And find your place and stop with the arrogance. And so let me say this, and I want to encourage you guys, if you want to understand, let me just say this. Ice Cube has a contract with Black America. I have read it, all of it. He doesn't mention women. I'm bothered by that. Doesn't mention children. I don't have any kids, but I'm bothered by that. He doesn't mention the LGBT community. Wherever you are about the LGBT community, it is a part of our society, okay? And it's a lot of Black people, right, that fall into that segment of the population. So you for Black people, but you're not for women and kids, miss me on that. There is a very robust agenda on Joe Biden's website. It's called Lift Every Voice Fund. It is 22 pages. It's 10,000 words. It is very detailed. If you are concerned about what the plan is, go read it. Don't listen to me. Go read it. It even has a part that specifically addresses Black men. It talks about mass incarceration. It talks about education. I can't really legislate everything from the past, but what I do know is the current administration doesn't care about people, and it definitely doesn't care about Black people. So it didn't care about me. So I already know that. It's been clear. Science is real. They don't believe it. It is endangering people. There have been, people are losing their jobs. They're losing their lives. They're losing their livelihood. They're losing their minds. I mean, it's just a lot happening. So all I can say is get the information. Don't just follow the lines on Facebook and Twitter. Don't just get your information from there. I will tell you that the Trump campaign has spent more than $6 million on Facebook targeted at Black men. That's real. That's not something I made up. You know me, I'm going to research anything before I tell you. And so he's targeting people. We've seen him say a lot. We know that he's not a man of integrity and he doesn't tell the truth. Okay? Don't start believing him now. Don't tell me now what you're going to do for Black people, because for 4 years, I've seen what you've done. I see that you are inciting violence. I see that you are endangering my lives and people who look like me our lives by talking about in the militia, inciting them. Let's stop calling them militia. Let's just call them some terrorists, because that's what you're doing. If you're going into a state house in Michigan with some AK-47s because you're mad about having to wear a mask, that's some terrorists. If you're plotting to kidnap the governor of a state and kill her, that's terrorism. Let's not give them some fancy names. They are terrorists, okay? That is what they are. So this man is inciting terrorism. He said recently, listen, I don't really believe it. There's any kind of a systemic racism and all that diversity stuff y'all doing. Stop it. It's not good. No federal contracts can be used to talk about diversity and inclusion. In a minute, y'all don't pay attention, we'll be wishing we had an opportunity to vote. So I say all that as I wrap up today's civic lesson with this. Vote. Go online and read the documents. Don't read what somebody tells you about the documents. Go read the documents. And for anyone who is concerned about really who Kamala Harris is, if you follow me on Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. It's Kim Y. Davis. Kimmy Davis, as some people like to say. It's Kim Y. Davis. And pinned at the top of my page is a video of Kamala Harris, in her own words, on a forum back when she was a DA in San Francisco. And you can see her position about mass incarceration, about what's happening to what was happening to people of color. And you can better understand who she is. Stop letting people tell you who she is. Find out for yourself, because you're smarter than that. And unlike the president who says he likes the poorly educated, I don't. I want people to be educated, and we have all the tools to do it. If you are watching my show, that means you have access to the internet and access to information. And so just go to the real documents, not to the opinions about documents. Go to the documents themselves. And if you have questions about how to find them, hit me a note. DM me here on Facebook or on YouTube. You can send me a note. You can always email me, kim@kimydavis.com. And you can check it out for yourself. And if you're not sure where it is, I'm happy to help you. And it's not this is not condescending. This is not me saying that you're not informed and smart. What I'm saying is there's a lot of craziness out there, and sometimes the real information is hard to find. And I'm happy to help you find it. All right. So the other thing I want to say is it is about to be flu season, people. We can't really do anything about COVID other than other than wearing our mask, practicing social distancing, and washing your hands. But also you can also work on your immune system. Okay. Flu shot, do what you think about it. I never take it. I am taking it this year. I'm taking extra steps to make sure that my immune system is okay. It's not okay. It's better than that. I take emergency. I'm really conscious about my diet, but there is something on the market called Ginkgo. You've heard me talk about it here on the show before. I love Ginkgo. It is a turmeric paste. It also comes in capsules. And now if you are in Houston, you can go to any of 31 different HEB stores and purchase it off the shelves. You can go to iloveginkgo.com and order it, but you can go into HEB. And if the HEB that you go to doesn't carry it, just go to the manager and say, hey, I would like to buy this Ginkgo product. I love Ginkgo. And can you get it in the store? And they will. I'm telling you, it is something that can bless you and your family. It can shore up your immune system. And just we've got to do the things to take care of ourselves and our family. So let's not be caught off guard. Let's pay attention. I don't hear the helicopters flying around anymore. So when I get off the show, perhaps I can take Angel out for a walk, because I did not want to go out with these shooters still active in my neighborhood. So thank you for everybody who has sent me a text and called and said, hey, they shot police over by you. I did. I got the notification, and I heard the helicopter. So thank you guys for checking. With that, I'm going to wrap up for today, but I'm encouraging you to vote. Okay. Vote like your rights depend on it, because they do. And remember, take care of yourselves. What can you do to shore up your immune system? Try Ginkgo. I'm telling you, you will not be sorry. It will bless you and your family. We've got to be safe so that we can get through this and get ready for obviously what's going to be an amazing 2021, because 2020 has been a beast. Hey, thank you guys for being a part of today's show. Please share the video. And remember, if there's something that you'd like for me to talk about or somebody you'd like for me to bring on the show, let me hear from you. Send me a note on Facebook, or you can email me, kim@kimydavis.com. You've seen the website, Kimmy Treats, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That is where you can go and order your popcorn. It's getting ready to be the holiday season. They make great gifts. It's easy to ship. Go online and place your orders today. Okay. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Make it a great week, everybody. And I'll post when I'm going to do my final Astros show. Hey guys, Reggie H, Chef Wills, Chef Allen. Hey, it's good to see you guys. Wendell, Reggie H. Hey, Reggie, we got to talk some golf soon. All right, everybody. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. Take care. Be safe and vote.